intrigued and been in suspense since we planned this and scheduled this. What you do is such a neat concept. And, the human organism certainly is complex, right? There's just so much going on, and the whole spiritual dimension and so forth. And I should share that because there are different perceptions of religion and faith and Christianity, that I'm not at all judgmental. As a matter of fact, the way I often describe myself in bios is that what I write about blends faith and psychology in loving and non-judgmental ways. I'm super respectful for folks of different perspectives and who may be skeptical about faith, or just kind of on that faith journey. And so I just want everybody to know that that's my context, my perspective for everything in my life, and certainly what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I was mentioning, before we started recording, that is a wonderful way of expressing what I do as well. Everyone has their own faith, and we all have the scientific rules of psychology by which the human mind and body and work to understand the world, and perceptions and different stuff. But when it comes to dreams, it is very much a blending of what do you believe, what's your worldview, and how are you experiencing that in your unconscious mind while you're disconnected from external input. And for folks out there who look at, what does this guy believe? Doesn't matter what I believe. Getting to the correct dream interpretation for an individual entirely depends on what they believe. If they believe in space aliens, that's their frame of reference in the dream for that specific imagery. If they're specifically Christian, they're going to be looking at these, they're going to be showing themselves symbols that make sense from within their own perspective. So it doesn't matter what I believe. It's entirely up to what the dreamer believes. So it's definitely that faith and psychology meeting.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Thank you. It's nice to hear that someone else phrase it so well, that loving, non-judgmental connection of the two. Yeah. But you had another book as well. So you've got Jesus Christ, His Life and Mine, and then you've also got Healing the Stormy Marriage.
Right. Yeah, this deals with what's an exploding phenomenon in our society, in our modern stressful societies, and that's mental health and how that affects marriages. And so there's a lot of books out there to help folks who are mentally ill or addicted or struggling with some kind of mental health situation. Not so many about the spouse who's trying to get through that, support their spouse, trying to decide whether I can handle this or not. So our book is specifically designed to support the spouse with fewer issues, because hardly anybody has no issues, right?
Yeah.
And certainly in our
case, a good way to put it.
My wife and I both have diagnosed mental conditions for which we take medication, and we believe that medications can be helpful when we do believe put God first. But some folks take a very hardline approach and don't even believe in psychiatry. That certainly isn't our situation.
Yeah.
But we've been through a lot. Our story is harrowing, gut-wrenching. It's 36 years, and a lot of it's described. And that second book is not just a memoir. It is a self-help book. It's designed to provide, tips, advice, recommendations also from world-renowned researchers. And then it's faith-based as well. So big topic. A lot of marriages are collapsing after the pandemic, especially mental health. We see it exploding everywhere. I suppose it would affect our dreams, right, Benjamin? When things aren't quite right up there, then wow, somehow it comes out in that subconscious, right?
It definitely can. Yeah. And that reminded me of, I don't know if you're familiar with another author approaching the same subject from a similar perspective. It's a man by the name of Javier Amador, and he wrote a book called I'm Not Sick, I Don't Need Help. And that's a quote from his schizophrenic brother as his brother slammed the kitchen door and stormed off to disappear for months. And it was all about his experience trying to be of benefit to his mentally ill brother in some hard times. And he's a clinical psychologist. So he's like,
wow,
you think he'd know what he was doing. And he's like, I was lost. I was frustrated. There's been a big shift in understanding a lot of delusional disorder conditions with that type of presentation, where we just don't see reality the same as the other person. The old school was confront until you break down, and then they finally capitulate and accept, I'm sick, I need help. His perspective was like really just helping the support system around this person know they're not doing it on purpose. They're not being obstinate.
Yeah.
It's not like they know the truth and they're just being dumb on
Right.
purpose and
Right.
obstinate about it. They hear things you don't hear. They see things you don't
Right.
see. They feel things you don't feel in the exact same circumstances.
Right.
Cut yourself some slack in that you're not fighting an enemy that is a person. You're trying to work with the person against the thing that's hurting them.
Wow.
That's my ramble on that one. But it sounds like your experience is very similar with this book. How do you help your spouse, the person you love the most, get through this experience?
Yeah, for sure. And how do you take care of yourself and protect yourself in the process? But I really love what you just described, because that is exactly the perspective that we take in the book. Exactly what you just said.
Which part of it? I said I ramble a lot. Sorry.
Well, the fact that the other person experiences a lot of things that we can't understand, we can't see. We're not trying to confront them and beat them into submission. So this idea that you've got to find a way to manage to love the other person through that circumstance, while still, pointing them and encouraging them to get help. But in some cases, they're just going to be resistant, and the person has to just decide. Well, first of all, they have to decide whether they're going to commit to the relationship or not, if it's not too abusive. We do not take the perspective that you should just submit to whatever is being dished out, because we have a whole chapter on forms of abuse, and there's times to separate. I mean, we were separated 4 times, filed for divorce twice. I actually bought my wife a house at the 15th year. Like, that was it. I mean, I was done. Yeah. And due to some very miraculous changes and circumstances in her life, we got back together. But still, 4 separations, physical separations up to that point, those are necessary. I needed it to protect myself. We needed to establish some boundaries. So there's a lot to it. And, we believe that you put God first. You decide, with his help, is this something that I can sustain? Because he sees things that we can't see. He sees the beginning from the end. I like to trust in that. And it has actually panned out really well. Now, sometimes when we go a path that we think is the right path, we think, that means everything should just be easy. No. That wasn't the case. I mean, I described how at year 27, I was at a near collapse. And then at that point, she entered a psychiatric program that made a huge difference, that taught her dialectical behavior therapy, which is the most effective for severe personality disorders like borderline. We're dealing with bipolar. I'm bipolar. She's bipolar. Borderline personality. We had our hands full. PTSD was added to my plate just from dealing with her. Yeah. So you can imagine the crazy dreams that I had.